G'day, welcome to Oly35mm, user-based, quasi-empirical, cheap and cheerful videos on Olympus 35mm cameras. And today you only get half of that, because I'd like to talk to you about the Olympus Pen half-frame series of cameras. They ran from 1959 through to, well, the last one was actually came out in 1981, but I think manufacturer stopped in 1984. Produced 22 different models and made about 17 million units. But before I go into that, I'd like to tell you a little bit of a story, and it sort of revolves around the very first unit, and that's the Olympus Pen in 1959. But 3 years before that, a young, aspiring and very clever automotive engineering student was poached by the Olympus company, and his name was Yoshihisa Matani. And he is probably, after Oscar Barnack, probably one of the most celebrated of the camera designers, and certainly an absolute legend in my eyes anyway. He was given a task as he joined the company to design a camera, and he took this design of the Olympus Zuiko D lens, which is the one on the front here, and he asked the optical department to design a lens that was as good as a Leica. Now, I'm not going to argue whether it's as good as a Leica or not, but that's what he wanted. And they had a bit of a problem because they blew out their budget. So the idea was they needed to make something that was quite cheap for the rest of the camera. So they decided to go half frame, and this little fella is a half frame, which is 18 by 24 millimeters, the negative, versus 24 by 36 of a full frame 35 millimeter. The camera took some shortcuts, not in quality, but in design. Not only as half frame, but single and double winds were coming out, lever winds. He decided to actually leave the knurled ring on. The film counter was another thing that he decided that didn't need to be returned to zero, and he saved about 40 parts there, and some weight and some complexity in the build. So 1959, this little fella came out. He'd been given the nod to actually get it produced, but when they took it to the chief of the manufacturing department, he refused to build a toy camera. The story goes that when the EES came out in 1962, that and the other pens had become so popular that he begged him, Matani, to allow him to actually build it after that. So 17 million later, and the pen's finished, to be revived in 2009, of course, by the digital pens. So that is the pen. So a lot of innovation in the pen series. Now, there's another story that I'd like to share with you, if I can, about the Pen EE. Now, the story goes that Matani saw a woman taking a photograph of her baby with probably one of the original pens, and he was quite concerned that she'd actually got it wrong, that she hadn't focused it properly, and it was going to be a terrible photograph. And so he thought about this and decided to come up with the fixed focus lens instead, and this little unit actually had the selenium meter around the outside, so it also made the exposure automatic as well. So it was as simple as winding and shooting. There. Now, to continue on with the story, at the time, female take-up or take-up of cameras in Japan from females was about 2%. By the time the EE came out and showed its wonders, that went up to about 33%. So that's quite amazing. That was 1961. 1962, two new ones came out. There was the zone focusing EES. Now, this is an EES2, which came out in 68. Unfortunately, I don't have an EES. Very, very similar to the EE, and the fact that all you had to do is zone focus and then press the button. And the wonderful Pen D, which also brought out a new lens, which was the 1.9 lens, so f1.9, and it also had whoops, I've got it upside down, got it the wrong way around here. It also had a meter, and this is what I was trying to show you, a meter where you actually adjusted the aperture and the shutter speed. So you actually had quite a bit of opportunity to be creative, but you also had the bonus of actually having a meter in there. 1965, the EM came out, which was a motorised version. There were a couple of quick load versions. The EED, which was very similar to the EM, came out in 1967, I'm pretty sure. And that had a wonderful 1.7 lens, so we're even faster again. A little bit bigger in size though. Now in 1963, there was an incredible movement on the pens, and they brought out the Pen F, which was a system camera. It was an interchangeable lens camera, and there was, I can't remember, something like about 13 different lenses I think came with it, and it had microscope versions, all sorts of stuff. Really, really lovely half frame camera. And if I just take the, oops, get it right in a moment, take the lens off, you can see the mirror assembly hopefully in there, and that had a titanium shutter in it, which was quite amazing at the time, actually poached from the aircraft industry, titanium. And I always get these lenses wrong because they're the opposite to the OM lenses. So quite an amazing camera this, and there were three versions, the F, the FT and the FV, plus there were a couple of microscope versions as well. So I've already done a video on that. You may like to look it up on the Oly35 YouTube page. And the very, very last one was, whoops, sorry, that was my Pen EF back again. The very, very last one in 1981 was the Pen EF. The plastic, fantastic, built-in flash, went back to the fixed focus lens, and was a mere 280 grams, given the fact that they decided to build it out of plastic. So, from the Pen to the Pen EF, 1959 to 1981, 17 million copies of various different pens, 22 different models, a fantastic little series, much fun to use. I suggest that if you have any interest in film photography at all, get yourself a little half frame. They're a bucket load of fun. All right, that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.